Welcome back to Unladylike Opinions. This is the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 2, Episode 8, a wolf pack of secrets. So the episode starts off with Lisa with the people to do an event for a men grooming line. She and her husband set up for her boys, and the name of the company is Fresh Wolf, which is a pretty dope name to me. And it's a fitting name too. So her son Jack came up with an idea and pitched the idea to them, and they put in a charity behind it, a foster care charity. And they asked him what is he hoping with the event, and he said to raise awareness and have more people donate to foster care. His father is a big part of him choosing the charity because he was adopted, and he wants to help other kids because he have kids that goes to school with him that are in foster care, and he wants to help other kids who are in foster homes get a permanent home. And when Jack was little, he used to ask Lisa how much did his dad cost, because he thought when you was adopted that you was kids that was sitting on the shelf and they bought you or whatever, which was cute. And they asked what the guest list looked like, and Lisa said the guests are people that support her son's company and people that made financial donations to the Utah foster care. Then we get to Mary arriving at a restaurant. Then Heather arrives, and then Whitney arrives. They greet each other with Italian kisses, and Mary says, you guys are all dressed up and I have on jeans. And I'm like, Mary, you always look a mess. This ain't unusual. So Heather said this is a dress that she would wear to church, and Whitney says she doesn't own anything that she can wear to church. And I'm like, she doesn't own anything that could get her in the church. And I'm like, damn, Whitney. So they come over with the food, and they want to start them off with, raw salmon. And Mary said, no, I don't do raw. I want mine, seared or whatever. Seared. And she said she has this thing in her head that if she eat raw fish, it's gonna come back to life in her stomach. Whitney asked Mary if she had fun snow tubing. Mary said, next time take your kids. And Whitney was like, I think my kids would have handled that better. And Heather asked what was going on with Lisa and have they talked. And Mary said Lisa is Lisa, and Whitney said Lisa likes to get under people's skin. And Whitney thinks Lisa must be going through something for her to snap at Mary. And Mary said, well, I went at her first. And see, Mary is crazy, but Mary is also honest at the same time. Mary said she was triggered because that wasn't the first time Lisa said something like that. Whitney asked why Lisa triggered her, and Mary started crying and said her mom was her best friend. She lost her mom because she knew she was right and she wouldn't back down, and her mom cut her off. And Heather asked what was the reason for that, and she said it was Robert Sr. And her mom felt like she should have been next in line and had the church, and because it was her mom that passed, not Mary's. And she hasn't spoken to her mom in 25 years because she didn't believe what she said, and that triggered her when Lisa said, I have to Google what you say. Heather asks her mom want to resolve anything, and Mary says no, that will hurt her the most. So Mary said she has a sister and 3 brothers, and 1 brother sided with her mom. Heather tells her, you have taken a lot of stuff from our friends and you remain strong. And you've been forgiven. And Heather and Whitney thinks Lisa is calculating and want people to be team Lisa. And if you cross her, Lisa will reveal herself. And Mary says she doesn't think Lisa is like that, which is crazy because Lisa's gonna set you up in the end. So Lisa's son is having a photo shoot, and he is in full control, has all his ideas, and he knows how he wants things. And Lisa said she thought the idea that he brought up was gonna fizzle out and he wasn't gonna fulfill it, but he's been all in since the beginning. And in walks Jen with this coat with a wolf on her head. And I guess, she was fitting with the name of the company, and they take pictures with the wolf heads, and Lisa and Jen sit down and talk. And she tells Lisa she is proud of her boys, and Lisa asks Jen is she okay, and she thinks she could have healthy friendships, and she asks if they can talk about a name that they won't give us who the name is. They bleep the name out, and whoever this person is, the person that they are talking about used to work for Jen. And he was supposed to make a dress for her, but didn't deliver on time. But he said that Jen didn't give him the details about the dress in enough time. And audio was leaked of Jen verbally assaulting him, and he said that audio wasn't leaked by him, and he doesn't know who did it. So Jen said she trusted him because he was from Hawaii, and she didn't do her due diligence and do a background on him, and he repaid her by making her look like a fool. So she said everything he put out there was a setup, and Lisa said she see he's getting gifts from Whitney, and she thinks it's weird, and she's a loyal person, and she thinks Jen should know what Whitney did. Jen started crying, talking about what she went through, so much therapy, can't worry about everything negative that people do to her. Lisa said it was bothering her when she saw people sending him gifts because she wouldn't do that, and she felt like someone should be defending Jen. And Jen said, thank you, because no one is defending me. And Lisa said she wants to get out there and say, stop sending gifts to him. This is not true. So Whitney and her brother are hanging out, and they created this little group called the Bladers Club when they were kids, where they hang out and rollerblade. So they sit down, and she asked him about the dad, and he said he talked to him weekly, and they go disc golfing. And he says the dad is keeping off the grid right now. And Whitney says she hasn't talked to him in 6 months. And when he was battling his addiction, she was the only one, there for him. She was the one that facilitated the relationship between her dad and her other siblings. And it's like a dagger dug in her heart seeing him hang out with them when she facilitated their relationship to get them back on track. And she just feels like she's being left out and he doesn't speak to her anymore. So she said the last time she saw him, he came over, and her husband Justin was going out to eat, and he said, oh, y'all go ahead, and I'm gonna watch the kids, whatever. And she ordered food for the kids, and she gets a call later from the delivery guy, and he was like, it's a guy at your house that's keep on yelling at me. And she said, her dad got on his motorcycle and chased the delivery guy down because they had a new address at their new place, and he couldn't really find the house. So he got on his motorcycle, chased the guy down, and got in his face and started yelling. And her daughter called her crying, and she feels like he wasn't sober that day, and she asked him to leave. And it was the first time she felt like she stood up to him and told him no, and it hurts her because she thought things would be different. She said it's okay for her to be done. She asked if it's okay for her to be done, and the brother was like, just because it's blood doesn't mean you have to deal with it. You got to cut it off. And Heather and her daughter meets up with Meredith and her daughter. Meredith asked Ashley about how was school shopping going or whatever, and she said she got into Santa Barbara, and she thinks that's where she's leading to, and she thinks that's where she's going to attend. So Meredith's daughter said she liked going to a college where not too many of the people she went to high school went, because your reputation doesn't follow you, and nobody knows who you are, and you kind of get a fresh start. And she asks Ashley if she's interested in, Greek life. And Ashley says she thinks that's the best way to meet people. And Heather tells us that BYU doesn't have fraternities or sororities, no Greek life at all at BYU. So Meredith says to Heather, we need to hear about this good time girl thing. That's something that Lisa told everybody Heather was a good time girl. So Meredith says, Heather says, she wasn't a good time girl, but she went as a travel companion to Cancun with a little person to help them with check-ins and all types of stuff. And she said she needed to see the world, and that was her ticket out. And when she went, she said she didn't drink, but she won this contest with singing, and they gave her this big bottle of tequila or whatever. And she said she was sowing her wild oats before she became a wife and a parent. And Meredith says she rented a house in Vail, but it's not going to work out because Seth has to go to Mississippi and Brooks has a conflict. So Heather said, so wait, we got an empty house in Vail. Is that an invite? Because I want to go. And she said, of course that's an invite. And she said she going to invite the usual suspects. And she said she is apprehensive with her relationship and Jen. She was like, yeah, Jen did apologize, but it's going to take them time to repair all the damage that she done in their relationship. So Heather said, what happens if we go and everyone has a good time? What is the percentage of that happen? Because they never have like a very good time. So Meredith was like 45%, and they laughed. And it's the day of Lisa kids event, and people start arriving, and Meredith shows up with her kids, and Lisa thanks them for coming, and she says the people helped her put the guest list together, and of course Lisa and Meredith and her kids was on there. Meredith and her kids was on there. So Jen arrives at Heather's house in his full length of fur and with gifts, and she asks Heather about her dating life, and she said her goal is to just put herself out there. And Jen said she bought gifts to help her get on out there. So she has all types of sex toys in her bag. So they play this penis ring toss game, and then Heather asks her if she's going to go to Vail. And she was like, of course I'm in. But she said it's weird that Heather is inviting me when this is Meredith's trip. If Meredith is the host, why is Heather the one inviting me? Or whatever. So Jen tells Heather about the conversation with Lisa about the guy in the dress, and Lisa asks if she was okay, and was she okay with Whitney sending gifts to the guy. And Heather says she didn't know nothing about that, but she doesn't think Lisa just sends out free products to people. She thinks people actually purchase the products. But what was Lisa's point in telling her that? And she finds it suspect that Lisa points out to you that Whitney isn't a good friend, but she has an event going on right now where she only invited Meredith and Whitney. But Whitney didn't go because she feel like it was a reason she did it. So Jen had no idea about this party. And Heather thinks it's suspicious. And Jen said, right, because if you're so concerned about Whitney doing something bad to me, then why would you invite her to your son's event? And Heather said, this is what Lisa does. She goes around and collects things to dismantle relationships, to undermines affection and loyalty, to somehow win an imaginary game. Jen asked what the event was for, and Heather was like, Utah foster care. And Jen was like, are you kidding me? My aunt adopted 2 kids, and this is hurtful, and I don't get it, and Lisa knows all of this. So over at Lisa's event, her son Jack gets on the mic and makes a speech to why he wanted to do this event. And Lisa is proud and says that she hopes he is everything that she is, which is true. And I hope he stays that way. And Meredith asks Lisa what happened with Jen, and she tells Meredith that she asked her how she felt about everything with no name, and if it upset her. And Meredith was like, why would it upset her? She has no problem talking about everyone else's business. Why is she upset when someone talks about hers? Now Meredith, really? So as she is talking, Cameron walks up, and he says he wanted to say bye to her, and he tells her she is the sweetest person, and don't let no one ever tell her different. This is a setup. And she introduces him to Meredith, and she says he is one of her very good friends in her connection to Mary. And Lisa tells him that Mary and Meredith are extremely close, and he gives this look like, oh yeah. So he asks her about the bags for the kids, and she says she tells Meredith he is taking care of 2 kids under 2, and Meredith was like, oh wow. And that's when Seth walks over, and then the photographer walks over, and he wants to take a picture with Lisa. So as Lisa's over there taking picture, Meredith asks Cameron how he met Mary, and he said he attended her church, but he is happy that he is no longer there anymore. And she asked what happened, and he said people at the church are beautiful people, but Mary and her husband have done some harmful things, and he wants healing for everyone. And he says him and Mary was extremely close at first, and he tells Meredith to be careful with that. And he said if she stick around at the church, at Mary church, she would find out the real truth, and that's why he walked away. And he said other stuff transpired, but it's not his story to tell, it's Mary's. So Meredith goes over to Lisa, and she was like, that was a strange conversation, and she is upset. She tells her what the guy said, and Lisa said he was a preacher at the church, and he doesn't speak bad of people. And Meredith said, no, he didn't speak bad of her. He just was sending cryptic messages and made her think the worst of Mary. And Lisa says she believes Cameron has experienced real trauma, and he has told her things, and she isn't comfortable telling them tonight. And I really think this is a setup that Lisa, conspired Because how all of a sudden you invite Cameron to this event and Cameron come over and talk about Mary. Come on now. You and Mary just got into it. This is get back. This is what Lisa does, get back. And that's exactly what I think this is a setup. Is Mary everything that Cameron said he is? I think so. So Cameron wasn't lying or whatever, but this was a setup by Lisa. Don't care what Mary is, but this was a setup. But anyway, that was my review of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will get back to you guys later. Goodbye.